So Nathan, I'm working in Carnegie, so I'm just emergency MC today. I'm Yonghon, and I'm recently appointed as the Associate Director for Professional Development Analyst. So I suppose this is part of my job as well. And it's my pleasure to introduce Uté, who will be presenting on the topic how brain branding change management contributes to project success. And Uté, okay, sorry, is a highly experienced HR organizational change and R&D specialist with over 30 years of expertise across various industries, including federal government, aviation, science, R&D, finance, FMCG, pharmaceuticals, and manufacturing. Uté holds a Master's of Organization Psychology, high distinction from the University of Aachen, Germany. Germany, sorry. And a Bachelor of Psychology distinction from University of Frankfurt. Germany, I can't do German. Uté is a practitioner in PRISM Brain Mapping, which I believe is also part of the talk, human synergistics, and a member of the Institute of Collaborative Working, UK and Australia. Throughout her career, she has demonstrated a strong ability to lead strategic and operational initiatives, manage large and diverse teams, and drive cultural, digital, and systems transformation. She's known for tapping into her expertise in organizational psychology and neuroscience to achieve project success. Her dedication to excellence has earned her several awards and recognition, such as Strategist, who honors for oversight, leadership, excellence, and multiple Procter and Gamble benchmark awards for best strategic culture and change implementation. And let's put our hands together. Welcome.
Do in the next 45 minutes with you is literally pick your brains, be a little bit out there. Right, she's laughing, she knows me. I used to work and just tell you how we can make project brain friendly, and I will be provoking you on purpose. Put your hand up if I'm too provocative, or I will scare you. I will check. So, welcome introduction. So, what I'll talk about is organizational psychology. I've actually gone through slightly. I don't even call myself a change manager anymore if I can avoid it. I stay on the side in industrial sociologist. Just simply because I often get confused with change or release management, like change control. Like I must have had at least 10, 12 people call in the last few days, just few days, and it's really bad. So it's really about leadership, executive, like it's not just filling in those Excel spreadsheets and change, analysis and change scheduling and planning and strategy. It's then actually grabbing those people. And people who work with me will hear the sentence behavior is predictive. Yeah, because that's one of my arguments, the point. Yeah, where the project managers go, oh, you don't know who I am, you are and it's like, I'm sorry to hurt the ego, but yes, behavior is predictive. I can predict behavior. Neuroscience is the science, the field literally of how our cells, how the brain, the nerve cells in our brains, how they fire, how they wire, which kind of brain chemicals they use. And all our human behavior, every single thing, every nod, every thinking, every decision making happens in those 15 centimeters between your ears. Nothing, you can do nothing without your brain. Yeah? The brain is the machine in the motor. And I'm going to talk about PRISM Brain Mapping, which is pretty unique in the sense that it's actually an applied tool by Stanford University, comes out of the UK, and it's peer reviewed. So think of it as using something like Myers-Briggs or TMI or DISC or any of the other tools you may have heard about for team building or executive development or recruitment or putting the right people in the right spot, but based on science, on real science. Because, and then here a few books. Aha, I'm going to wave this around. So there's a beautiful one, Mars and Venus, Project Management and Change Management. I heard it was a painful birth. Culture, that's what Penny Nesbitt, she's here in Canberra, she's a change manager. Yeah, Culture 101. Did you work with her as well? What's her name? Penny Nesbitt. We were together in thesis. Oh. And this is my beloved boss, Dr. Robert Holmes, and that's one of his 7 books called Limited. And Bob is here in Canberra as well. And Predictably Irrational is a book I can absolutely recommend if you want to read about science or cognitive research and behavior. Easy to digest, unlike Daniel Kahneman's award-winning book, Thinking Fast and Slow. And then a friend of mine wrote Trust. And her and I worked together in defense. Now, there is a lot of research, I said lots and lots and lots of research, and I actually asked my AI friend today. Medicine and physiology, anatomy changes so quickly. Everything we hear. I literally just said, tell me today's, the 24th of June 2025, physiology news. Yeah, and some of the headlines were human cells forming living bots that reverse aging. Never heard of it. Embryos fighting bacteria before birth. They now know that before birth embryos have an immune system. Sound waves influence fat cell fate. Yeah, so that is today. So there is so much out there. Why don't we hear about science, the word research or science?
We're too busy watching cat videos.
Doing programs at work while you're running projects. Yeah? Why don't we hear about it? That's the question. Yeah? Same about neuroscience now. This machine, that Siemens and lots of different Philips others built them. They're functional magnetic resonance imaging systems, and you probably have seen those slice images. MRI, but functional MRI, so it's different software, specific software. We only have 2 places here in Canberra, for instance, with specially trained nurses who can do fMRIs. What do you reckon, why are they called functional fMRIs? Like functional MRIs.
They look at neuroactivity as well.
So what the function, the brain function, which gets me to the word cognitive. Have you heard the word cognitive? What's the definition of cognitive? What does it mean?
Thinking good.
Anything with thinking, decision making, perception, gathering information, like every time, again, what happens between your ears, yeah, cognitive functions. So as we push people in there, we now in real time can say, dear project manager, please do your project planning whilst you're being scanned. And then with the brain lights up different parts of the brain. It's always the whole brain that works together. Like we used to say, oh, left side or right side, not correct. It's always the whole side of the brain that works together. But there are certain parts of the brain that are more dominant in the function. Yeah, we know that listening and language is over here. We know that problem solving and decision making is more here. Yeah, we know that trust and bonding and relationships is more here. Yeah, we know that the front is more for future thinking strategy, whereas the brain stem, which is the oldest part of the brain, is more for the here and now, for conserving what we've got. Yeah, and we know all of that from science. Now, interesting when I checked this today, I did my accreditation in PRISM Brain Mapping in 2015. And literally, Alicia, today I read the thalamus, which is the old part of the limbic brain. You may have heard of the limbic system, fight, flight. The amygdala, you may have learning. Hippocampus, you may have heard something of that. The thalamus is the brain's hidden strategist. We used to say it's the relay station, the passive relay station for incoming sensory information, yeah? Hearing, touching, seeing. It would go first through this relay station, and then the reaction would go out to the brain and do something with it. They now actually say that it might even govern higher cognition. cognition. That was today. Govern higher cognition, not just the prefrontal cortex. So that I read that today. I went, oh gosh, what I've learned a few years ago, wrong. Which, by the way, is normal for neuroscience. It's normal for science itself. I remember as a child I learned 3 plus 2 is 5. And it's 5 in Germany, it's 5 in Australia, it's 5 in France, it's always 5. Not true for what we do in change management. Not do what, yeah? My plan that I've built, and I got signed off by you guys, something might happen and I go, oh damn, not working. I thought this piece of communication would work. It's not working. People aren't buying it. Yeah? Then the sentence is not, oh, she's a bad change manager, she has no idea what she's doing. It's actually, human behavior is so complex and something else happened. It's not working, we have to think again, we have to, yeah? It's been falsified, we have to change our approach, we change it, do a little bit of a tweak here, all of a sudden it's working. Yeah? So in science, 2 plus 2 is not necessarily 5. So I talked about medicine, physiology, I talked about neuroscience. Now we also have biochemistry that plays a big part when we analyze human behavior. That is all the hormones, all the brain chemicals, all the processes that govern life. I chose this one because of oxytocin. Who knows what oxytocin is? What's oxytocin?
It's what's released particularly after childbirth, but it's sort of a loving, caring hormone.
So it's the love hormone, the bonding, the relationship hormone. So I did actually studies with fathers. Typically, when a young man who's not a father yet, when he sees a baby, nothing happens to the eyes. It's like, screams, stinks, eats, does nothing, or sleeps. As soon as they hold their own baby, the same happens to the father that happens to women. The eyes dilate, the pupils dilate, they get that, what we in Germany call bedroom eyes. Yeah? As soon as, because the oxytocin has kicked in.
Apparently fertility increases for male and female after the birth of a child as well.
Yeah, so remember the biochemistry. Now, which one of you has ever spoken about oxytocin or the love hormone when you were planning your project?
And being counselled shortly
Have I spoken about it? Yes. Have I argued with project managers? Yes. Did they hate my guts? Yes. But they usually did. So in the last 30 years, neuroscience has absolutely exploded. Yeah? Literally, like I said, I'm just reading something today and I go, my goodness. I was just thinking biochemistry, that was interesting. In Australia, that was Australian news today. Insect protein repels bacteria. They now found protein stuff that you usually find in fleas, believe it or not, that they will be able to engineer and use as bacteria repelling coating for medical implants and tools. That came out today. Yeah, so it is quite, every day you hear more news and more news and news and stuff. It's really quite fascinating. But what I'm talking about a little bit is neuroplasticity. That's very important for the PRISM Brain model because it's based and built on that fact that our brain is able to change and able to adopt and adapt. And up into the high age. Yeah, even 50 years ago they would say, oh, thank you, you're 50 now, bye-bye. Their brain goes all crusty. Not true. We know the brain develops. Yeah? It shifts away from, I need to have good eyesight and good reaction time to do this task to, oh, I've got a life experience and I know a lot about strategy. And I remember everything that's happened and I've got experience. And teamwork and collaboration. Yeah, the standard that I just did the ISO 44001 is a standard about collaboration. Just two quotes. Who studied the brown brain? multi-million-dollar projects. Just want to put it out there, guys.
Well, you can do meditation, which I think helps to understand and process those things that you don't understand, you can't cope with, or are not skilled to cope with. Helps. It certainly helps.
It does help people to anchor, like especially for these hybrid teams and when you do team meetings. I just finished a executive coaching, leadership coaching session with one of the departments, and it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon after lunch, you know, maybe sort of in a lunch slump, and they were running in and they literally had to do 3-4 things at the same time, and I spent the first 3-5 minutes just breathing and just anchoring them. And the first time with the first group I did, I thought, oh, they're probably going to think it's completely stupid. And the feedback was, oh my God, I needed that. Yeah, now I'm here, because I was so stressed when I left that meeting.
Just like in 2004, I was in Korea, and they were doing a new study based on the sticks they hold in their hand. My question was like, isn't it a human? Because over there in recent studies about teamwork, collaboration, and 2004 was about problems. So every exposure to a different human phenomena, because human personalities are different in a team, and not person is identical. So all those combinations might be a dynamic process.
And that's what we're getting to when we see PRISM. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I use it. Because we talk a lot about diversity, and I would say Australians are amazing at diversity. We're, like, look at us, I'm the only blonde one in the room. Yeah, we're incredible. Yeah, we're not so good with inclusion. And I think diversity happens in the field halls. Yeah, and inclusion is something very different. Conscious choice of inclusion. Another example, I've been in this country for 25 years and only twice have I been asked by a senior manager, and he came up to me and said, Uté, we're struggling with this problem, how would you have solved that in Europe? Because I worked across Europe, not just in Germany. Twice, think about it, in 25 years. That's hard. Yeah, that is a lot of money down the drain, because there's so many people who have good ideas and good experiences. Neuroplasticity, just touching on that again, I said that is the ability of our brain to change and adapt. Who's learned a language, another language in English? Every time you travel, every time you need to learn how to say goodbye, thank you and goodbye, your brain rewires. Yeah? Who plays an instrument, who plays a game, like any sporting games, yeah? Every time we get to that, every time we use the computer, nowadays we get these constant, Microsoft 365 updates, so we're constantly relearning. I worked like for Procter & Gamble, as you said, home. We on purpose actually did some back then when it was not long, software updates, harmless software updates, just to keep people, busy and learning. So we wouldn't have to have a cold start when we go and, implement something that's really big. So just to get people into the habit of being organized. Emotional intelligence. What's emotional intelligence?
The ability to manage your own emotion as well as others.
Yeah, being able to recognize your own feelings, being able to control them, being able to adjust them, and also being able to read emotions. It's almost like, just talked about learning languages, it's like being fluent in emotions. Yeah, you'd hope that diplomats, negotiators, that they're very high IQ, very, very high emotional intelligence. Cognitive biases. What are cognitive biases?
Repeating patterns, choosing to use a previous pattern.
Yeah, for instance, that could be one. They're cognitive distortions. Our brain.
Blind spots.
That's another one. Yeah. So our brain likes to conserve energy. Yeah, our brain is only about 1.5 kilograms. Yeah, so it's only, I don't know what the percentages of your body weight, but it takes between 20 and 25% of the energy we consume. Yeah, and we often say you can't concentrate and think from, well, university students were they're sorry. Yeah, at the height of learning and producing academic stuff, can concentrate maybe for 6 hours a day, and then it goes downhill. Yeah, so our brain likes to conserve energy, and that's why we take shortcuts. Our brain also loves taking shortcuts. So I put down here just groupthink. We see that a lot in projects and programs. It's groupthink.
It's like where you're in a room and you're like, this is a stupid idea, but everyone else is saying it's great, so you're like, oh, I'll just
Exactly.
not say anything.
I'm not going to fuck about
Don't
it.
upset the boss.
Yeah.
Just
Don't
whatever
upset
he
them.
says.
I love
Yeah,
not
whatever.
saying I'm like, that's wrong.
Yeah, fucking up is another word for it, maybe. Yeah, it is when we don't have the courage to speak up, or when it's so easy or feels right, or when we're not quite sure, it sounds okay, so let's go along with the group. I think. Now, I personally, when I have a team, I always have meeting agendas. The last one, my last standing item is always cognitive biases. And then I always ask, did we fall into the trap of agreeing to the group and with the group? Also called bandwagon and other things. Yeah, so we consciously challenge that. But you have to train your team up to do that. That is literally, that's a hot neuroscience tip for project managers.
But is it accepted?
When you have people like Alicia and me in the room, yeah, that's our job. That's what we do. Yeah, and that's why we work together with project managers.
It's conscious and unconscious.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so
it's very, our company is very focused on recruiting, conscious, unconscious.
Yeah.
People who do the recruiting, very focused on
they have
this.
their own biases.
Yeah.
And especially like in projects, I don't know if you know Myers-Briggs, TJ, the thinking and judgmental, so the 4 corners, if you've seen the quadrants, they love likes, love hiring likes. More than any of the other types. Years ago, I did for CSRO years ago, I think it might have been Armadale, I can't remember. I ran for the IT team, and it must have been 18, 20 people, project managers, project management, IT guys. And out of those, let's say 18, 15 were ESTJs. I'm not making this up. One cried because she was an ENFP. And the others were sort of in the neighborhood, ISTJ, whatever. But they were all, like, the whole room. Talk about groupthink.
Maximizing your innovation, limits, all of that.
Not rocking the boat, doing things the same way. I talked to somebody called me up today, and because I looked at an ad, role statement for change manager, and I looked at it and I thought, it's brilliant, we understand finally what a change manager is, but that's a definition from 2005. And I kid you not, yeah, that's what ProSci said 20 years ago. So we finally understand change management from 20 years ago.
On paper. At that.
And now we have lean, and we have agile, and we have AI, and we have that.
What an interesting observation is with regards to the banking sector.
Yes.
If somebody is exposed to the banking recruitment processes, the basic question is, we will take your test and we will see whether you fit the team culture. Even West, like Harvard.
The psychological tools, and they should, like in schools, yeah? School tests for children should only be done by school psychologists and not by teachers. Sorry, that's my own opinion. Confirmation bias, yeah, whatever I hear first, I try and confirm that. Yeah, so we blend out the information that opposes that opinion, and everything that ticks the box comes through. And then the anchoring bias, oh man, I saw these fantastic new glasses, they were $1,500. Ooh, these are only $1,300, that's cheap. Yeah, because the very first information I heard is now the anchor, even though $1,300 is still too high. Yeah, and that happens as well quite a lot in projects. Now the beauty is, we've got change managers and project managers, schedulers in the room, often behaves like an enterprise architect. So we, the yin and the yang, aren't we? We work well together. You should think. These are real statements.
Yeah.
I used that one and said, you gotta be kidding. Why should number 9 do better? Give me one logical reason why. And this one is, everybody knows you get along with those guys who are less favorable in the team. Can you add him to your team? He's a troublemaker. That goes back to you and the diversity. Was he a troublemaker? Have a good guess.
Probably not.
No, he was just not an ESTJ.
Faults that make decisions
He was
fail.
a high
And they want
strategic
to have
thinker.
that nuance.
And this was in manufacturing. That was in manufacturing. The guy didn't have any, he may have been a carpet layer or paint or something, okay? Did not have, he's a troublemaker. So I took him into my team. My team was full of troublemakers. And we were amazing. I love my guys. Yes, they were blue collar workers, but all of them were troublemakers because they were naturally intelligent, highly intelligent, and strategic thinkers. So they didn't fit into the manufacturing teams. That's when we get called in, right?
This is what AI is made for.
Yeah, sorry. Can you get it right? That was fun, but it took me about an hour to come to this.
Yeah.
It still looks like a pork chop.
Looks like something else.
That's when change managers often get called in. Yeah? Can you please fix it? Let's get the change manager in to produce all of those nice documents, to get all the Excel spreadsheets done, to then pop them all sort of on the shelf, because as soon as we change managers say, can we now go out and work with the people and engage and do the real work? It's often like, nah, don't talk to them, the stakeholders. And that's exactly where neuroscience and the knowledge of neuroscience can make and will make the difference. I can see it's happening more and more in Sydney at the moment, Melbourne, the bigger cities. But let's tap into what you already don't know. Through the lens of people behavior, neuroscience, why do people resist change?
It's more effort.
Yep.
To learn something new.
And I have to learn something new, which equates to I'm not an expert anymore. I feel like an idiot. Remember those hormones? Now I'm unhappy. Now my stress hormones shoot up. Why else? Yeah, I don't know. If I don't learn, I might lose my job.
People are selling the features, not the benefits.
Fantastic.
And the benefits are the things that will really sell to stakeholders.
Features tell, benefits sell. Features tell. What's the feature of this little non-lipstick? It's actually
Compact.
It's compact, it's
Nice
pink, it's got a cap, it's got a screw thing. What are the benefits? It's organic, it's $9. If I lose it because I will wash it yet again with my pants, it's only $9. Benefits sell. Features tell, benefits sell.
Fear of failure.
Fear of failure is a big one. Other reasons.
Change fatigue.
Change fatigue, saturation, or, oh God forbid, it, Mum was diagnosed with cancer yesterday, and now you're telling me that I may lose my job if I don't learn this and move on. Yeah? There's so much happening outside of work that we don't even consider. We always think we hire one person. That is incredibly naive. We always hire the partner, the kids and the family and the dogs.
It's like a marriage. You don't just marry the person, you marry the whole family.
Yeah? How do people like to learn? Learning, there's no change management, there's no living on, no change, no successful outcome of projects that people don't learn.
Different ways. There's different ways.
Thank you. What do we usually plan for?
Lots of PowerPoint projections with lots of words and no pictures, no graphs.
Management
training courses.
Yeah,
In
2
times
pages.
of social media, when people have the attention span of what? Yeah? Yeah? Or when they want color and power, and this, and cats. Did we just talk about the smiling cats? I literally get donkey and horse videos up and I show it to the dogs when they're unruly, and within seconds I've got them concentrating and barking and looking at them, living. It's very funny. Donkeys and horses. Yeah, because that's what people do. They love social media. Micro-learning, individualized learning, online learning. There's so real-life learning, peer learning, being part of the project. There's so many different ways, because learning happens in this campus, deeper part, the old Neanderthal part of our brain, the limbic brain, that is very close to fear and stress in the fight-flight center.
You need to be a little bit cautious with training that it's relevant and timely, so that you're not learning something 12 months ago that you're expected to use next year.
That's a common one, isn't it?
Because often the staff turnover might mean that you're not even in that role.
Talk about that all the time. Yeah, absolutely.
I think we need to define change also, because the way we, like merger of departments, functions remain the same, but like that have a very minimal impact because it's just administrative.
Yeah.
Actual level of change is when the scope changes and the skill set changes. That's something very challenging. Requirements.
I'm not sure I agree. I'm looking at Alicia, what she's thinking. I think I can't say yes and no, it depends. And that is what is so challenging when you're in sort of our roles, because quite often the answer is it depends. Yeah, and often I have to say, give me time to think. I have to think about this one, or tell me more about the outcome, or tell me more about the end state, or who is who is against it. Let me talk to the people who are against it. Now let me talk to the people who've already moved on, who are already using the new technology. Especially with technology, quite often we're actually already using it at home. When we're still rolling out whatever cloud-based technology, 365 or whatever at work, people have used it already for 3 or 5 years at home. Yeah, so it depends. But I know, yeah. Why do some decisions fail? It's a bit of a repetition. Because of cognitive biases quite often. So knowing about cognitive biases does help a lot. And that's why we're always consciously thinking about it. Depending on the people, depending on the target group. Like our now sort of slice audiences not just by teams or groups or divisions, but by age groups. Yeah, because I know I have to train them differently, I have to communicate with them differently, depending on what it is. I won't go into it, but when you get the slides, this is actually from the University of Bern. We now don't talk about psychological health, we talk about psychosocial health. Because, we have a duty at work, the accountable managers, to create psychosocially healthy environments.
I think there's new legislation about it, and all departments have to consider it, but you can change activities that have to consider psychosocial.
Yeah, I do, definitely do. Yeah.
Sorry?
Do they know that?
Yeah, I know In Defence has sent out a big website page now with about psychosocial health and the importance of
Yeah. Dr. Rob Holmes and I, where at last work, we used the UN Health, United Nations model. So that is not just what's happening at work, but it's what's happening at, me with my foot injury, it hurts. So, even walking, standing, it hurts. No, it's okay. So I know, but it hurts. So, yes, does it have an impact on work? Yes, in the afternoon I get very tired, and I might have to lie down, but then I pick up again at 7 and I can work until 9. Yeah, so things like that, we just have to consider flexibility. So how can, and I might have to speed it up a little bit, so there's questions for you. Yeah, how can knowing about the human brain help the sports trip team, the project team, the business team? And this is literally all the stuff that when I keep looking at Alicia because we work in this field. When we talk and when we plan and when we think about what's the outcome, what do we need to achieve, these are the kind of questions we ask ourselves. Do I need to coach and sponsor? Do the decision makers who have the funding and the budget actually truly understand the technology? Truly understand it? So they actually can make the right decisions. Yeah? Or are they so busy, and this project is just a tiny little part of their normal working day, that they are influenced, the group thinking and cognitive biases and everything else comes in by other people. Yeah? It happens a lot. Like when I go into, I've done it many times, when I go into an organization, I find a technical coach. And that could be the 22-year-old scheduler, it could be somebody, you know, from the project. And I have been known to sit in meetings and quickly send a message, hey, we're just talking about X. My understanding is that is not correct. Bing. And I would tell them beforehand, hey, I'm going into this meeting. Watch out for SMSs, please, coming in. And it's happened more than once that they would say, no, that's wrong. And I'd be able to say, hey, guys, we're actually talking about the wrong thing here. Incredibly powerful when a sponsor can do that. Saves a lot of time. All right. Yeah, I've touched on we need to create a psychosocial safety. And that might be by saying, you know, I would communicate to you in a different way to you, or I allow you to find your own way you learn. Yeah, we offer you a portfolio of solutions. We're trying to tap into people's natural motivation. People are curious. People want to learn and succeed. Nobody comes to work and says, I'm going to be a real doofus today. Yeah, people, that's not the natural default of what people do. Decision making, we tap into neuroplasticity, like I said before, and the power of emotions, which includes the power of human. So what we do is only as good as how we do it. Importance of trust. Now, question for you guys. Standing now here on the left side of the room. How many of you give people trust up front? Let's say you have a baby, brand new baby, you need to go away. New neighbor, just moved in 2 weeks ago. Looks like a trustworthy person. Would you leave the baby with the guy if you only know for 2 weeks?
No.
That's different trust. You define trust.
Go over here. Yeah? You know you have a really good sense for emotions and for relationships and for people. You know your high IQ. Would you consider leaving the baby with someone you have known for just a little while? And some people will say yes on this side. Yeah? So there's difference between how we give trust. Some people would say, that's the differences, personality differences. Yeah, the brain wiring would say it has to be earned. I've hired this person, I'm paying good money, I've interviewed them, I've seen the CV, I've spoken to referees. Now I want them to solve this problem for me. I'm going to trust them.
Oh, you mean like a nanny?
I've moved on now to work again. I actually did that, but that was after half a year, not after 2 weeks. And my husband was at home at night as well. Yeah? Do you recall a situation when you dismissed a person because they had not built the trust with you yet? Think about the project. Yeah, we spoke about groupthink, we spoke about anchoring. Yeah. Our brain doesn't like loss. There's fear, there's emotions, stress hormones released. I see that a lot. Yeah? I go, hang on, 2 weeks ago you were cheering that you got me to work on your team, and now you're upset that I'm telling you something and that you should trust me. Because trust has to be earned. Now, this is a model, I'm not going to go into it, but if you think about elements of operational planning, the what we do, the vision, values, roles, goals, measurement, that sounds a little bit like project management, managing. And then we have sodality, who we are together as a team. Yeah, the elements of people planning, and that is based on trust. Trust at work, which is different to the trust I have to the people I love at home. Trust at work means I trust you that you will do as you say, that you will stick to the plan, that you will stick to the systems, that you will follow the policies, that you will follow the processes. I do not trust you because I share my bed with you. I do not trust you because you're my child, and I know you bugger didn't clean the toilet last week, but I trust you this week that you will do it. Right? That's two very different ways of thinking about trust.
Yeah.
And where do we forgive only once? Once only, and never again.
At work.
Yeah, it takes a long time to build that trust. But it's also, if you don't have the trust, we can't have, it's going to call it conflict, and it's more the Latin confligere, which means to fly together, to move forward together. We can't challenge each other.
Is there a possibility that there could be a lack of trust based on their own biases?
Of course.
Yeah.
Experiences,
So it's not
background.
necessarily that you have to build it with that. They've just got that bias that's not going to
They have that bias, and then you have to build it in a sense that, I delivered this time, and then I said I would do it, and I did do it, and then I said I would do it, and I did do it. Then I came under budget, Sort of, that's what I mean by building it. You have to prove over and over and over again that you're trustworthy.
But if like I made a statement, like this might be different, that for a leader, he should trust the team members unless it is broken.
Should, but it's not the case because unfortunately we're not econs, we're humans. We're not logical, we're psychological. We're not logical, we're psychological. And human behavior is not linear. The more of that, the more of that. It follows U-shapes, up and down. It goes downhill, it goes up. Human behavior is not linear. That makes it so difficult.
If you're trustworthy in one aspect of your life, for instance, you handle $1 million contracts, you work in the bank, you're handling cash every day, and the book's always balanced, the community would trust you in those aspects.
That's the flow.
But would they trust you with your next door neighbour's wife, or
Exactly.
or his daughter, or
Context.
this sort of thing? It's context.
Context, environment, situation, etc. Which, by the way, is why it's called PRISM Brain Mapping. I'll get to it. Because we might have the same inputs, all of us see the same things, but depending on our background, our education, our upbringing, our experience, we interpret it in a different way. Alrighty, so this was just a case study. Neuroscience in action. I use grad networks a lot and EA networks. I involve the social club because of the hormones, the happy hormones, because of the connections, because of the relationships, because of the trust. There are many reasons. I recruit people who are different. I've recruited, like for the energy regulator, I've recruited guys in the change room because I ride into bike as well. Because I know somebody who commutes by bike, let's say 20, 30 Ks, they're not just fit, they have a lot of oxygen in their brains in the morning, but they're also different. Doing the unusual, I've literally said to one guy this morning, I have literally said, oh damn, we've got all these managers in this place, and they really don't understand people, they really don't understand people, but all of them have a good coach at home. And I convinced the HR manager, the general manager HR, that we're actually going to give leadership training to their partners and wives. There's an idea, huh? Because that meant we had real good coaches at home. We educated coaches. Now this one, how do you choose your plumber? This is a real story. I come from close to the River Rhine, and a thunderstorm turned 3 times, and all the water bucketed down, and this turned our bathroom looked like this, and my mother literally went catatonic and screaming for 10 minutes, so that all the neighbors came running. So we had this problem. How do you think my father chose a plumber? What was important for the plumber? What did the plumber have to have?
Logo on his t-shirt, well-designed truck that had a signal signage.
No.
Vacuum cleaner or something.
No. It wasn't just a quack. Yeah? You make sure that the plumber that comes to fix this mess, they have accreditations, they understand the tool they're working with, they know when to apply the tools, they know how to use their gadgets. So what is the gadget you guys use most often? Not the laptop. If somebody says laptop again, I will scream. No.
Excel.
You as a manager, as a project manager, as a scheduler, what's the tool you use most? This thing, exactly. I want all of you to put your hands between those 15 centimeters. Come on, come on. And think about your tool. That's the tool, that's the tool, that's the tool, that's the tool. Are you trained in using the tool? No, and that's where PRISM comes in, yeah? Because it does help us, it does give us that information, and it's based on that science. The interesting thing is actually that it really works well with executives who hate any of that fluffy stuff, yeah? Because, so what it does, if you think about this is the brain, if we're looking at the map from, it's a schema, it's a model, it's not the brain itself. So we're looking at preferred behavior, relationship building versus tasks and performance at work, processing, the brain stem back here. The front of the brain, that's where the nose is more deciding. Yeah, so strategic, strategy, forward thinking. We have 4 different quadrants and 2 different dimensions each. And what it does, as they pop these people in these fMRIs, and they said, now do some mathematical equations, now build relations, now sing, now breastfeed, now whatever, yeah? The different parts of the brain lit up, and they could say that kind of preferred behavior actually sits more here. And then we could map it, yeah? So, again, looking up frontal cortex back. And we know that the sort of creativity that is linked to epinephrine, adrenaline and dopamine, happy hormones, stress hormones, it sits up here. So that's the right side. Green. We know that people who are more, I asked you about oxytocin, the bonding hormone before. We know the networks relate to this part of the area of the brain. Close to estrogen, the blue part, that's where we go into the people matters, yeah? Marshalling resources, supporting people, caring for people, helping people. So people have a high preference. Let's say this person has a really high preference to show behavior in this area. Doesn't mean they can't do the other things. It just simply means that will give them energy and they will skip home. If somebody who is low in an area but has a task and has to show that behavior that's very high, they go home like a beaten up dog. So when we use these maps, for instance, you ask how do I use it, I can go, okay, where are people low? For instance, delivering. I would love a project manager to be high in delivering. And that is the intrinsic motivation to commit to a goal and to achieve it. Yeah, I have a peak here in delivering. I can work from home. You can send me home and not worry about me. Yeah, because that's my preferred behavior anyway. I deliver. I suffer because I know people around me. The dogs get so many hugs and kisses, it's not funny. Yeah, because I need that interaction at work actually. So, look at this. The right side of the brain is where we have the flexibility and the relationships. The left side of the brain is where we have behavior that is more strategy, not strategy, systematic, numbers, step-by-step process. So it's probably fair to say, yes, the yin and yang. We've got our HR managers, L&D managers, change managers, our project managers, project schedulers.
That should be on the left.
Yeah, trust is also, trust is here. Yeah, empathy, emotions, relationship management, stakeholder management, all sits here. Scheduler is here actually.
Yeah, I have trust issues.
Yeah, marshalling resources doesn't mean I like people. I'm just really good at knowing who's good at what and when and to pop them into a task. That's marshalling resources. So I won't go into deep thing, but look at this: estrogen, testosterone, serotonin. So it's clearly linked. That's why I talked about biochemistry. Now, the right side of the brain will say, oh my God, that project manager is amazing. And I've heard many of my friends here in Canberra say that. Yeah? Have you worked with that project manager? He's amazing. I have never, ever heard a project manager say, have you worked with that change manager? The right side of the brain, and that is neuroscience speak, the right side of the brain admires the functions of the left side of the brain. The left side of the brain has no time for the right side of the brain. This is what neuroscience tells us. The right side of the brain thinks the world is a good place. No, the world is a bad place. That's why I need to control it. Okay, I won't go into that. That's a video as well. There's a link embedded. So what you do is when you run it out and roll it out with people, you get a map. The purple, the red is the natural behavior of that person. Like for instance, if I'm working with a let's say English scheduler or project manager or an accountant, I would need them to finish stuff.
Do you remember my results?
Huh?
Do you remember mine?
No, I didn't check
I
them out.
can't remember mine.
And then focusing is more the my way or the highway when you use. Yeah, so. But the purple is how people interpret their work environment. In other words, this person has, let's say, the capacity, the diversity, that person brings to the team of the red, has interpreted the role in a certain way and has pulled back massively. So we're actually not seeing all the behavior that we want to see. And that's the power of it when you do it with teams. Yeah, and then I can talk about trust and everything we just spoke about, and more, of course. Just a little bit of being provocative. Are we running our projects in a half-brain way? I would say absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and quite often, as change managers, that's why I now talk about being an org psych, we are expected to run the people risk and people planning stuff like the things stuff. And it's not, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work that way.
I have a statement about this, like using the workplace about that. That the frameworks have moved faster than the behavior, the maturity of the behavior.
Yeah.
So like there is a big difference.
Yeah.
Like we will have a well-being framework, mental health framework.
Yes.
Respect, equity, diversity framework.
People can't keep up.
But when we look at the people on ground, nobody has like studied any in-depth studies. So they are still living 30 years.
Yeah. Thank you. See, that's exactly actually getting to that point. Yeah. So here, now this is my AI again. Watch this bit, okay? So he goes from totally desperate to sort of vacant to happy and 20 years younger. So I have no idea what AI is thinking. Yeah? But the message here is, of course, doing the same things over and over and over again doesn't work. We need to do it in a different way. We need to find a way how we think about things differently. And that's sort of my pledge. Yeah? Let's work with your org psychs. That's exactly what you were saying. Yeah, we've covered this bit. Because, we now have dispersed people, neurodivergent people in the office, who work in a very different way. Oh, yeah, by the way, I talk about BC and AC before COVID and after COVID. And the world is a different place. But we picked it up as though we run projects the way we did it before COVID.
Yes.
Can you see that? And ching 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 ching, taxpayers' money. Yeah, modern change management. I used to say change management is the art and science of. Now I actually say it's the art of wisely applying science. Yeah, because we know we can't. We need to influence. We can't do the testosterone-driven red, authoritarian stuff anymore. I left you with some key takeaways. And this was actually me trying. Trying to get to this.
Because you didn't say please. Stop.
And just added some of